Counselor Jeff Hensley.
Here.
Counselor Adina Oliveris.
Present.
Counselor Joe Parsons. We have a quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, already. Okay, what did you get bills? It's tough, man. All of it. I oppose or. They accepted the minutes for that meeting. But I guess get you a
Yeah.
I have one, which I don't think I had about that meeting. So what can I do that? I make a motion that we accept the minutes from October 11th.
One second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I'll make one to accept the minutes from October 19th. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public comment. This is the time to speak to the city council or the mayor on these subjects, including what is listed on the agenda, except for public hearings. The time limit is 3 minutes per meeting. Anybody? The recorder to report.
Okay. City's reporter's report is kind of dour this time. Sorry. The finance reports are attached to the council packet that was delivered. In the last month, we did ultimately have 2 expenses paid by credit card. So those are given to account and receipts revenue correct. The big thing that we're dealing with right now is the damage to our finances that the water crisis is causing. At the end of this month, the amount of money budgeted for water acquisition will be maxed out, and we are going to have to amend to the budget. And the problem that presents is that we have to figure out how we're going to amend it. And that is either making cuts to the budget, other line items and moving them into water, or just simply cutting our surplus down. And if we do that on paper, we'll only have like $30,000 left at the end of the year, which is a really bad thing to do on paper. And I think it is very realistic to project that we'll have between 80 to 100,000 cash in hand at the end of the year, which I think is more realistic for our operations. Our ending surpluses in the last few years have been bigger because there's been a lot of grant funded stuff coming in. Once we remove the grant funded stuff, we have a much more realistic picture of money that's like actually just ours. So I would say it's a bad thing if we end between 80 to 100,000, but we have to do something with the budget before next city council meeting. We approve the next water hauling bill because we can't afford to not haul water, unfortunately. So that is something we are simply going to have to do. We're going to have to do a special meeting, a work session of some sort, a supplemental budget hearing, and figure out, okay, how do we want to change the budget? Do we want to make cuts to other line items, or do we want to cut from the surplus? And that's something the council is going to have to consider. Yeah.
So that special meeting, can we make it a dual purpose meeting and talk about the water rates? Or do we have to have 2 special meetings? Because last time we talked about having a special meeting for that.
Yeah, I think ultimately we're going to have a work session to talk about water. So we have 2 basically by the next city council meeting. We're going to have to do 2 things. One is to have a work session just about the water problem in general, and we need to have a supplemental budget hearing. So that can be a special meeting as well, where we just need to pass that, or at the next council meeting we can pass that supplemental budget, and then after we pass that supplemental budget, we will be able to vote to pay our water hauler that day. It's a lot of procedure and it's annoying for everybody involved. I have been looking at budget projections to figure out, what we can expect and what we can't expect over the next year. We're 5 months into our fiscal year, and I think we've only gotten like 30% of our revenue, which is it's normal for us to have less revenue in these early parts. Late winter is when our revenue really picks up, primarily because of property taxes. And then historically, we also see our total water revenue going up after restrictions over, because even though the price is lower, people are using more, so we end up making more money. That's what the data supports over the last fiscal year. But our problem right now is that we've maxed out the amount of money that we budgeted for water acquisition. And we can't legally pay the bill that we are contractually obligated to pay. So by the next council meeting, when we approve the payment for that water line, we need to have an amendment to our budget that allows us to actually pay it. And we're thinking that it's probably, we're hoping it'll be $40,000. That's just kind of, we could look at 2 more months after this. That would be water hauling through December and January would be the next 2 times when we spend $20,000 or so, partially in water, partially in hauling. It's not a good situation. It's a crisis, basically, you know. This is the bad things happen sometimes, unfortunately. Last year we were extraordinarily lucky with our water hauling. You know, we budgeted 60,000 and we spent 35,000. That was great. This year we budgeted 60, added 4,000 to it, and we're maxing that out this month because it's a natural disaster we're dealing with. We have no control over it. We try our best.
There's some mitigating circumstances. Paying a lot of water, money for water in return.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one way to go about it. It all depends if the council wants to, you know, that would be one way to amend our supplemental budget is to do an immediate increase in water prices just because of the hauling. You know, we don't have the physical capabilities to stop hauling water. Right? I mean, yeah, part of it is that, you know, we have to have a certain level of pressure. We don't have a certain level of pressure, bad things happen. The state gets called in, and we don't want that. Yeah, so, yeah, we will have much better. I've been spending most of my time really accounting and reviewing historical financial data and figuring out our best path forward. So we'll have much better numbers to look at once we do have a work session to figure out how we're going to resolve this current water crisis. That's kind of where we're at with water. It's not great. The money's not great. We're going to have to do something drastic because of this natural disaster. So that's the finance report. We have been keeping costs down as much as we can. I think this time there ended up, I think, being 6 invoices other than payroll. But usually there's like a dozen or so. So I've cut the number of expenses. The problem is that we ended up spending more this month than last month because of water. So even though there's only like 6 bills to approve, they are total within the last month just because of water. That's the sad part of it. Trying to remember the other thing. I'm reaching out to USDA to see if they can get us some financial help. You know, there's some grants for dealing with water issues.
I'm sure when not everybody out there already trying for it.
Yeah, well, that's why we're doing it. Yeah. Last year we did end up having to get outside help. Yeah, we did have a nice cushion. There are lots of designated funds in our operating account. And you have to keep a cushion so you're not accidentally dipping into things you're not supposed to, because that's the problem for all of us. I think a couple months ago it was down to a point where we were like less than $800 away from dipping into designated funds. As of today, I think now we're checking, just check that for you. We are about 15,000 away from that, and that is all going out the drain tonight once our checks get cashed. So this was actually a good month for us financially, other than the water issue. Hoping next month there will be more money coming in next month. And this month even there's actually more money than next month. Our state revenue sharing has been very good to us. So.
Like the tobacco tax.
The tobacco tax. Yeah, some of those come in at different increments, some of them are quarterly, some of them are, um, uh, they'll come in like, uh, biannually, that kind of thing. Um, yeah. Oh, okay, several $1,000s in there, which is nice. We do have a resolution we're passing tonight to transfer money from LGIP to our operating account. After everything gets paid for, I think that'll leave us with like 60 something, 6,800. And then water bills will start coming in, and property taxes will also start coming in, so that'll buoy us back up a little bit. Our problem really comes down to how much money we're spending at the beginning of the year as opposed to later in the year. If all of our water crisis happened like in the middle of the year, we'd probably be fine, but they happen kind of earlier, and that makes it a problem for everybody. So I don't really have a whole lot of updates beyond this. JD and I have just been working on figuring out how to address our water situation, which are looking at accounting and budget information. Looking at grant applications, reaching out to partners to see what we can do. Working on updates to the water management conservation plan, working on a grant agreement with the state for the $307,000 legislative matching grants that was being distributed to the Oregon Water Resources Department. We found a problem when we were looking at the legislative funding we got with OWRD, and that there were some typos entered into the legislation that gave us that money that may prevent us from getting it. So we're trying to figure out if we need to fix that, if there's a way around it now, or if Jamie K is going to have to, our representative is going to have to introduce an amendment next legislative session saying, please have the money they had rather than they misspelled their document. Like,
So there.
yeah. Yeah, that's not great, but that was something that the legislature did, and it's rough. But yeah, I will have an update hopefully soon. I am still talking with OWRD to figure out what we can do to make sure we get the money that we loaned for, and working with Representative Kate to figure out if OWRD says no, sorry, the legislature's typos are going to screw us up for you, then. The good news is that it's not really a big ask during the legislative session. There is going to be a lot more funding that goes around. Next spring, what helps us is that we're asking for the same money we already got from the additional money. There's that. We attend a legal Oregon 6 meeting on November 8th, and then I would like to take Thanksgiving week off for vacation this year rather than going on vacation for Christmas. I have some family visiting that I don't know we'll get to see, and also I sort of just broke my foot, so I kind of need to stay at home anyway. So if the council's okay with that, I'm about to make sure I can be out next week, and hey, that's a week we're not spending on Halloween sitting home. That'd be good. Yep. Any other questions? Yes, she will be coming the first week of December, the 4th. She will come by our city hall, and she would love to meet with us. So, yep. Early morning. I will forward everybody anything. We'll grab it here real quick. He is not been here. And 11:30 on December 4th. So much really good. You all haven't. You need to fill out your city council audit questionnaire. I emailed them a few times. Some people have responded, not everybody has, but the auditors do them as soon as possible. That's something they ask everybody who was on the council last fiscal year to fill out and talk about anything. Our former councilor Ray Jackman in the audience filled his out. Thank you. You did, yes, and you did. And I don't remember who else done it. Yeah, okay, was it? Okay, oh, yeah, I'll look again, I just want to be clear. Yeah, I can reach out to people. Yeah. I think that's the last big thing for me.
Roger, do you need the printed copies? Yeah. you need the printed copies.
Yeah, stick around after that, I can print one for you. Only other thing you're gonna see, you got, there was some papers on your, spots before you got here, we did have to add one item to the agenda. And I also added the actual copy of the, transfer resolution. The one other item we'll discuss it shortly is, an amendment to the water payment plan. Normally we've got 2 amendments, but there's some mitigating circumstances that I think, warranted amendment. So we'll discuss it when we get to it. I think that's everything for me.
Last was 3.5 for last month, but it's very decent. Work out my place and bring the rest of their main time is waiting on. The drawdown in Lowell started in August, Green Peter started in October. They're gonna stop the drawdown and start reconnecting in mid-December. We've owned having a heck of a time trying to get their water clean and keep it clean. All the little communities that use the river down south, none of us want to have issues with that. Lebanon does not have pre-treatment like a lot of treatment plants do. Their filters are pretty much being destroyed right now, and it will cost them $3.5 to $4 million to replace those filters. It's hurting a lot of people. Killed tens of thousands of coaching salmon due to blood gases, and their swim bladders coming off because of the quick drop in pressures. They're all visual eaters, and if you look at the river, it's kind of hard to see anything. And a lot of them are suffering with gill irritations as well, I guess.
What does that do to the water quality? We got dirt in there, it's running filter, but what
The confidence for decades that's been plucked out right now. And they're gonna be doing this every year, it sounds like.
like say the rotten fish has got to have a kind of impact on the quality of water, right?
So, yeah. And so you know, for your wells between yesterday and today, I read them every day about 8:30, 8:15, 8:30. And well one for that 24-hour period put out 4,629 gallons. When it's doing normal, it's up close to 9,000. Well, 2 did 1,067 gallons for that 24-hour period, which is what that one pretty much does all year round. Well, 3 did 1,689 gallons for the 24-hour period, and we're out of restrictions. That one does about 4,000, 3 to 4,000 a day. And well, 4 did 1,150 gallons, and normally that one's around 5 to 6,000.
So they're still just going down.
They're not going down fast, they're still going down. That's still slowing. Yes.
How do you set up a schedule for those? I mean, do you dial it back or is that automatically?
I have to do it, so I have to go to the well, make sure it's. When it kicks on, make sure it's pumping the whole time, and if it's not, then I have to slow it down or turn it off or give it more rest time and
keep going until it's running the whole time pumping, so it's not burning itself up.
So you guesstimate, or you figure out from how much draw it does during a certain amount of time, as to what the interval should be on it.
I go into each well periodically and I watch them run. And I watch the meter when it says flow, it's flowing, and when it doesn't say flow, I know it's running waste. Does that answer?
Yeah.
Not our maiden.
No. That part's not.
Man-made.
And a lot of, there could be different stuff done, but, well 3 and well 4. When they ran those, they ran the low voltage with the high voltage, so there's too much noise for a lot of the communication that could be happening. That's all I have.
The packet that had the water stuff, are you gonna speak to that?
No, I wrote a letter and I'll just let the letter and speak for itself. I don't have my packet, I don't know where mine went. I have one on desk. When I came in, never mind.
Well, I think we need to talk about it, right?
Well, I think we should put it for a work session. Probably.
It's just basically, I'm requesting it, or I'm referring you.
It starts with an R.
I'm kind of requesting that you guys consider a work session to look at different, ways, different, billing rate for next year when we go into water restrictions. Not this year, you guys changed things last month, I don't see a reason to change them every month. You changed it to go to the $60 per minute for anybody over 7,500 or whatever it was. That really, $60 really doesn't make a difference in any of that, so I don't know.
Well, in the work session, can we talk about what we kind of talked about before is, actually billing people?
After hospital.
In that packet, I have that in there.
Okay,
We're paying, at the lower rates, tier 1, tier 2, basically you are charging 1.6%, 1.6 cents a gallon, and you're trucking it in at 9 cents a gallon. Well, you're losing it. And that's a lot of our problems, is not recouping spending at all. And relying on other agencies to give us handouts is not, in my mind, a wise way to look at it, because they're not doing that so much anymore.
well, doesn't, in my opinion, and we'll probably talk about this more in special session, doesn't make fiscal sense to, charge less than we pay for any commodity.
To charge.
For us to charge less, yeah, for a commodity, no, so,
And that's why I suggest, and I showed the law, and I did not, in the, I think page 2 had my 2 suggestions towards the bottom of it. Like, I don't have.
you gonna share?
No, well, you know, the hard part of all this is we haven't had good data up until the last 2 years. So we know how long rain held last year, we'll have an idea this year, so in theory, there's no way of knowing where we would be yet. We didn't have an idea of even how much to charge, because we don't know how much we've been trucking. So if we get an idea of how much we spend,
You're not, yeah, everything fluctuates so much.
Yeah,
and yet, but the idea is you can actually have a baseline of kind of where you're at. Yeah, I mean, we're trying to be positive here. Because it all breaks down to data and math.
So, students, just my 2 suggestions, what we gotta do is, we have, when you got a work committee session, and there's these pages here for what your wells have done every month for the past 4 years, 5 years.
probably a simple question, but not as simple. Do we have a fringe idea of during water restrictions, typically our wells do enough that every citizen can get 2,500 gallons?
Absolutely not. They cannot. And I think I had that information in that letter as well.
Okay.
You know, the sad thing about it is it's high end users that are doing the rest of it.
And I will share with you guys one thing. One of our customers, he offered to pay for his water usage, and he came in and had a meeting. And I told him, if he's willing to pay for his water usage, I'm willing to waive the $60 fee for the permit. So he is paying 9 cents a gallon over 5,000 gallons.
Yeah.
Yep. He came and had a meeting with us, and I told him that.
Yeah. I think clarifying that in our ordinance as an option is something we'll have to do as a result of the work session.
Yeah,
We need to make sure everybody knows what the level playing field is.
and make it fair and equitable and transparent.
Yeah, fair, equitable, and transparent, and having all of our ordinances online for people to look at, so there's no surprises is a big part of that. Yeah.
Because I know you, and forgive me if I misinterpreted what you said, I know you said something about we need to do this for next year, I think we need to do this for now. So in this water session, can we talk about changes now, because we have how many more months of water hauling?
Yeah.
Well, but last year we stopped at the end of December.
Yeah, it was Christmas Eve,
It's at the end of December.
yeah, Christmas Eve was the last load of that all.
So if we don't want to spread this 2 more months.
But is the trend the same, and I did not speak water for forever? Were we regressing and losing equitably the same last year, or is it more this year? So potentially we can go into January.
It's twice as much.
It's horrible this year.
Okay, so then,
Because by this time last year, the wells were at least holding their own or picking up just a little bit. And then by the middle of December, they were back up to running full function. And we could stop hauling water. This year is not that way. I mean, here it is. We're almost in the middle of, well, we are in the middle of November, and those wells are still going downhill.
And we're trucking in, last year we trucked in maybe 1 load or one day a week. This year we're trucking in 2, right now we're trucking 2.5.
Yeah, 2 to 2.5. Brady told me today he's trucked almost 1 million gallons of water.
so that answers my question, and this can't wait till next year. I mean, we need to do something ordinance-y wise at our meeting about.
That's pretty good.
That is ultimately a council decision, but our options for addressing this are driven partially by just physical need and partially by the limits of state budget law. We need to add, I'm just conservatively hoping, just $40,000 more to our budget. That's our hope. That can either if we can get a grant from USDA to pay for that, that would be really good. I'm still waiting to hear back from them. If we have to raise our rates right now, that'll plug that $40,000 hole. Or we have to cut everything else in our budget, and
As an objective casual observer, I would have issue with any business that I'm holding to that charges less than what they're paying. That makes no fiscal sense. Regardless of whether we get grants to patch or whatever, that to me does not make sense. So I'm glad we have other options to help mitigate it, but I would think somebody outside would go, who's in charge of this, that they're continually doing that? That makes some sense to me.
yeah, and it's not a great thing. The city water utilities are non-profit by definition. We had budgeted for this year that we were going to bring in $130,000 in water revenue, and we were going to spend $60,000 on water hauling, which meant the rest of that is stuff that we can use. In the long run, make more money than we're spending on getting it in, but that's not really the case so much this year because we're going to have to add $40,000. That balloons our water acquisition line item to $104,000 if it's just 40, which means that we're making $16,000 worth at the end, which doesn't pay for everything else in the water budget.
And are we really making? I don't see that that's a positive or a lack. We're still losing money. If we're charging 16 cents and 0.16 cents and we're paying 9 cents.
Well,
Upside down real quick.
Yeah, I don't get how we're making anything.
it has to do with the balance left over at the end of the fiscal year all told. because the cost of providing water fluctuates throughout the year. Right now, it's a lot bigger than it has been. Last year, we only paid $35,000 for water acquisition. The rest of it was just the other things that we do using water money to fund our water program, the administration of the department, the administration. Yeah, again, it's like 85,000, the 21 to 22 fiscal year. Yeah, in terms of what the state wants you to do through budgeting, they want you to look at the long run being your fiscal year. And if we spend a lot less on water acquisition through a certain period of time, the state's budgeting philosophy says you're okay in the long run. Now, this is a kind of point of departure where we have to say, okay, we don't think that's the right way to operate our city budget, so we want to use a different philosophy. And that's what we're talking about right now.
If I may interject, with the charging the 9 cents over 5,000 gallons, the city would still be losing, but not nearly as bad as we're losing right now. Right now, you're giving everything away. With that, you're still, with the rest of the year, my thought is you're gonna make a little bit and you can put stuff aside to buy parts in case stuff breaks, to buy tools. We have nothing if something happens. We have no reserve, no.
So that's what we were supposed to pay last time we raised the rates.
Well, we haven't been.
might have a little pocket of money somewhere.
Yeah.
But we don't have supplies, we don't have enough to get supplies and stuff to fix things.
My gut says, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been on this for forever, but we may not have been charging correctly for high amounts during water restrictions ever.
No.
We've been over than enough, though. I mean, usually our budget, going up to the last 3 years have been between $10,000 and $20,000. And there's years we don't have to pay anything, right? I mean, there's years that we have to truck water in.
When?
Probably,
As
yeah,
long as I've lived here.
I think it was about 5 years ago.
There was
5
one
years
year,
ago.
in the last 29 that I heard of that you get a truck water.
Yeah, like I said, I think it was about 4 or 5 years. I think I was on council at the time. We had a year where we did not bring it in.
So part of we don't have a lot of great recent data. The only recent data that I can look at to verify all of this is our publicly available annual audits on the Secretary of State's website. And we can go back and look over the last several years to see how much was spent. And there was like, I know at least one that you can go and look at the Secretary of State or audit that year to verify, yes, we didn't spend anything in that line item, but it's pretty common that we do, and it's pretty common that we spend a lot. Last year, we were hopeful that we could clamp down on how much we were going to be spending. Water conservation practices were going up in the community, and also we had these new meters that were a lot better at managing our water and keeping everything together. This year we had a crisis that kind of made all of that null and void because the water just ran out physically. It's not there. And best laid plans, they fell away.
Computer not pushing out, not deep enough, put water around, bring it out.
Yeah, and I don't.
Computer the other day, the water down to the base of the dam, about the size of Oak Creek.
Yeah. And more than 50 years.
Yeah, but no, with that water pressure not pushing down the ground, it's not coming up the basins, Okay.
It does drop.
Yeah, it will, and then it'll go down to the bottom of the lake, and it'll come out, and crevices down below. If you got no pressure down there, it's not good, it's gonna.
And look out, Point is just 30 miles south, so they work together in the area.
Yeah. It'd be devastating, whereas in the computer, it's devastating this whole area.
Yeah, that is all thanks to a lawsuit filed by 3 nonprofits. Yeah, one of these nonprofits is called the Wild Earth Guardians, another one's called the Native Fish Society, and the other one is called the Northwest Environmental Defense Center. It's a think tank hosted at Lewis and Clark College. So it's a crowd of young law students who are getting their start, and their big start was suing the Army Corps of Engineers to destroy the Stanley River. Yeah, right.
That's 6 months, I like that.
Well, there's a group of cities and state and federal lawmakers, including Sodaville right now, that have just started talking this week, figure out how do we address this politically, how do we fix this problem. And one thing I think we need to do is let Lewis and Clark University, or Lewis and Clark College know it's not okay to have a think tank on campus that is destroying an entire watershed. So get rid of them, please.
Why don't we sue them?
I mean,
Anyway,
we should. Our congressman sent a great letter a couple days ago, I think maybe yesterday even, to the judge who decided this case, telling him you really screwed up in your decision. You need to go back to the drawing board and issue a new decision, because this is just it's a disaster caused by.
and there is a opportunity to talk about this. I think, I don't know, I think you the link.
Yeah.
And the ability to write your comments to the people to say,
Yeah.
this was not well thought out.
There's
About the
a-
downstream impact.
Yeah, there is an online comment. There were some listening sessions this week. And then on Monday, the Army Corps of Engineers are going to hold the town hall in Sweet Home for anybody to go and talk about it. So I feel like the Army Corps itself is a rock and a hard place, because a federal judge forced them to do this at the indication of some kids in Portland.
But was it their engineers that did the like environmental impact of this? So they did a bloody job.
Well, they didn't really have a choice. It was.
The Army Corps of Engineers isn't my fault.
No,
They
but
were ordered by law enforcement basically to do it.
but who did the impact statement on this? Who did the engineering impact statement?
It wasn't done very well. Yeah. That's why they didn't realize the wells would be drying up, because
This fishing, so anyway, digression. So
Yeah.
good that we're gonna be having a workshop session, sorry, I can never remember the names are, because we need to talk about our water rates. I think historically, overall, we've not been charging what we've been selling, and we need to be more in line. And especially with the high water users.
It should be out of place to ask the high water users just to impose a 9 or 10 cent a gallon per gallon and throw over their amount.
that's pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't read what you wrote, but that's what I'm thinking. You know, if you're gonna use 20,000 gallons, everything you use over 5,000 gallons, for the other 15, you pay 10 cents a
That's
gallon.
exactly what I'm asking.
I know that the one gentleman brought it up, and my thought is, as long as we have access to extra water. I mean, with what happened now on the river, you know, we or whatever, we're gonna get to the point where maybe Lebanon says, no, I can't sell you all that water.
Yeah, yeah, we'll run to Albany for it.
I think if people want extra water like that,
Yeah.
True, well, if you really don't want, but don't read the world, you want to talk to it, then you manage your own stuff.
Yeah.
So we don't have to be dependent on other people.
is we giving more permits anymore? I thought they kibosh that.
But that's really.
The wording, they giving water permits, they're.
It's not so you're not what rights is on.
But you can still get a permit and get it well on your own property,
You're not
right?
gonna play the state not do it.
Yeah.
And whether you get it or not, it's up to the state.
Not likely.
Yeah.
Okay.
In order to draw a line, you have to go to the state and apply for it.
And they're not giving up anyway.
You know, water rights, no, not even.
But what they can do when they don't have any water.
Not for problem, but.
They're telling you can't do what. On your own property, that's a problem.
Yes, they can.
That's what I'm saying. If they are telling you that, that's their
They
problem.
have been long, it's never been your property, you're just paying taxes
No,
on
that's
that.
true.
I talked to the guy one time at a greenhouse, and he put, get water stations along the curb of the greenhouse, water lamps. Give them in there and told them that's illegal, because that's state-owned water coming down there running into the gutters. They may either turn it down or put you out of business.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, if we have this.
Yeah, next. Okay. Special meeting for water. Okay,
But people already got a well. They've already
Mr.
got-
Mayor. Nothing goes wrong there.
Mr. Mayor, there has been a request to return to regular order.
New business.
All right, resolution 2316. This is transferring $20,000 from our LGIP account into our operating account as well as transferring $496 out of our operating account to our LGIP account to maintain our water equipment reserves, which are small, but it has been helpful to have at least some money going in there. Part of the increase of from 45 to 47 was that extra $2 goes into reserve and isn't spent until we absolutely need to. We spent our first last month, and I do keep track of that. Let me see on paper, well, not on paper, in fact, you look at our account. We have in that reserve right now, it's $660 something dollars, so this will bring us up to about $1,000 once we transfer it over in our water equipment reserve. Overall, our actual reserve account, LGIP, as of today has $99,740.30 in it, and it's going to go up again even after we withdraw $20,000. It's going to go back up again because we're going to get property taxes and other stuff is going to keep coming in. We're getting to a turning point soon where money is going to start coming in at higher rates than it has throughout the previous 5 months of this fiscal year. So we're about to start turning a corner that'll make things a little easier to swallow. That's where we're at right now. $20,000 from the LGIP account that'll allow us to pay all of our bills that we have today, and it'll leave a cushion, and then that cushion will build up as water money comes in and other funding sources come in. So that's resolution 2316.
Need a motion on that?
Yes.
I make one to adopt resolution number 2316.
And second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes, so there is a water repayment plan that I wanted to revisit. This individual had a pre-existing water payment plan and they had been making their regular payments. The reason that I talked with them and decided to submit a new payment plan to the council is that they were one of several people who over like a weekend, there was like a cluster of leaks and they ended up having a really outsized water bill beyond what they normally pay. And I think that mitigating circumstances warrants kind of a restart since they've already demonstrated that they are going to be paying their bill. Because this was something that was kind of outside of their control, a leak that caused a massive increase in their bill, we can kind of restart and go, okay, we understand that's a problem. And they already started paying down the increase that they saw this month. So they're still making up their end of the bargain. I think this is one situation where we can just say, okay, we're going to restart your payment plan basically, and they'll keep paying as they've been paying.
So they were on a payment plan before their leave.
Yes.
And how long were they in the arrears and for how long?
Let's see if I can figure that one out. I think they were like a few $100s. I think so. So they were in arrears 500. They had already, as of this month, they paid down 200, and they were paying their additional water bills beyond that. So they only had 300 to go, and they had been working towards that in addition to their water bills that came after that. So it was 500. It was cut down to 300 after the payments they made in compliance with their contract. Their bill ballooned up to $800 this weekend as a result, or this month as a result of the leak. So
And what were they paying extra on the previous payment plans?
it was their monthly bill plus $100.
So we're just continuing that.
We're just continuing that. If they hadn't had the leak, they would be, just a couple months away from their payment plan being complete. So if this was somebody who just wasn't paying anything, they would have been shut off, and they said, "Oh, can we have an extension?" We would have said, "No, this is on you." But they've actually kind of fit my ear into the bargain. So to me, that word is some grease.
That's how we probably do the paying the water payment plan, essentially.
I need to pay for water, so. You okay with it?
Do you want to move to approve the water and building?
Well, we're kind of on a full water payment plan. How many people do we have who are in arrears? Is that something you can throw together for the city later, or is that something we can take right now?
Let me hide my screen. So I can't share utility information, but I have a list. When I come back from break, I will have to work with JD to get some past due notices out.
Because if I was I would want to,
Yeah.
I want to make sure everybody can pull out that picture.
All right. I don't know their total amounts in arrears, but yeah, there are 8. Some of those numbers change. Part of the process that we go through toward evaluating who needs to get a payment letter, it involves a couple of things. One is that I standardize every single bill, no matter the day the bill is written, it's always dated through the 10th of the month. And your bills are due by the 5th of the following month. There's a 61-day grace period before late fees kick in. So if we go 2 months and I haven't gotten a payment, that 3rd month I go, okay, your bills are due. There's a late fee that's added. 90% of the time, that late fee ends up kicking in. The late fee that's added isn't always the 10th of the month, or the 5th of that month, and the late fee date that it's mailed out don't always match up. So there are a couple times where somebody will get their money before the actual late fee kicks in. So the late fee is then waived, and then they just get their payment in. So we have to wait a little bit after the bills are mailed out with the late fee notices to know whether or not somebody actually is in compliance. So we've got 8 people this month that are in that boat of they're beyond the 61 days, and they're going to need a notice. So when I come back, we will be sending them notices.
We touch every way to make sure we're doing the best we can for our citizens.
Yeah.
So making sure people pay. Is there still really an option for people to do utility help? Or is that dried up?
That is dried up, unfortunately. That was a federally funded program, and the federal funds are gone. So yeah, it is sad we can't have got more. It was a great thing for our people, but the money went up. There was some concern, I think. Some people had larger past due balances than they realized, and the checks that were being cut were reflective of those past due balances. And some people were posted on social media like, "Hey, what happened to my money?" Well, we paid your bills that you weren't paying on time. This is what that utility assistance was for. So, if anybody comes to you with complaints, anybody who has a complaint thinks that there was a problem with it is free to come to the office. I print out all of their data in QuickBooks. I can adjust that data as well to make it easier for me to calculate for people. But anybody who has a problem with the way it was calculated and dispersed can come dispute that. We try to make it as painless as possible. There are occasionally some errors. Sometimes it's my error that results in a problem. Sometimes it's computer error. And there was one person I was talking with for like a couple of months. I was like, come on, the problem. I was like, I don't know. I had to dig back through several months to find a few errors that occurred in QuickBooks that resulted in their balances kind of growing incorrectly. It was like, oh goodness, that was bad. So when they finally came in, I apologized and we worked through that. Things happen.
Apology goes a long way. And it's really difficult sometimes to admit fault, so some people are better at saying, I'm sorry you had to go through this.
Yeah.
You know, maybe sometimes legally we don't want to admit fault or responsibility, but I know it works miracles to just say, I'm sorry you had to go through this.
Yeah, and when something happened that was my fault, I have to go, oh boy, yeah, I really screwed that up. I'm very sorry. So I'm always quick to admit when I find out that I screwed up, somebody's going to go, hey, that was me. When it's the computer going, kind of explain that.
So we can still apologize. The city, they don't know that.
Yeah.
The city made a mistake, whether it's our own software, still.
Yeah.
Apologies are very important.
Right.
We've got the whole business.
Yep.
And then it's coming through that.
Yep. That could be a script for you.
Public hearing.
Yep.
On how we can have public hearings to consider the ordinance. The hearing will be conducted as follows. I will make the opening statements and set any comments. And testifying, please give your name and address for the record. For those of you testifying, please give testimony related to the ordinance and be as concise as possible. Although this is not necessary in most areas, we may not be limiting testimony to no more than 3 minutes. Does any member of the audience have any objections to this? Does any member of the city council have a conflict of interest with regard to this request? If so, please indicate the nature of your conflict or whether you discuss today with necessary. Does any council member have previous contact with any party involved in this case, either for or against the proposal? If so, please explain the pre-hearing. I will have Alex McCaddy, the city administrator, read the ordinance and unless someone would like to make a motion to ask the city reporter has fulfilled the charter requirements for ordinance to be read by title only.
You need to know, you need that all night, all, maybe all night. You need that Sunday morning. Only.
I make a motion. With,
Yeah. I'll say, yeah.
All in favor? Any opposed? Present the ordinance.
But this one is long. Ordinance 2307 is one we reviewed earlier this year over the summer, and I have counselors for feedback if they have anything they want to change. Contracting and purchasing under state law is a very, very complicated. There is a reason for the complications in there, is that they don't want somebody just giving a contract to their family member. But I think that has kind of over time made it a little more difficult than it could be to procure and bid on contracts, but we have the contract ordinance we have is about my age, 30 years. I don't know if it was passed before I was born in 94. It was passed in 94. That means that we're 30 years out of compliance with the state procurement law. And outdated procurement policies can result in the liability of your goods and services. The big reason we really need to update this as soon as possible is that business Oregon said, hey, as part of your money we're giving you to get a new well, you need to have all of your contracts and policies updated so you're doing procurement correctly. So once we pass this, then we can start issuing RFPs for well building and engineering and things like that. There are a few different paths you can go for procurement policies in the state of Oregon. There is state law that defines what needs to be in your procurement policy. The Attorney General has model rules that all state agencies use, and local governments can choose to adopt in full or adopt in part with their own amendments. the Attorney General's model rules are like 1,000 pages long, and the RFP document is like 100 pages long, and nobody wants to read a 100-page RFP document to bid on building a well in Sodaville. So rather than using theirs or using theirs with our own amendments, the League of Oregon Cities has a draft procurement policy, and this is primarily based on the League of Oregon Cities policy. Now, I did make a lot of changes to the policy, and Councilor Oliver has contributed a lot of changes as well, and she reviewed them. But the big changes were removing things that we're never going to buy from the scope of procurement authority. It was really written for general purpose for larger cities than us. So like, the original one would have allowed me to spend, $20,000 whenever I wanted on copyrighted material. I.e., if you're a city manager who needs to buy books for a library, you don't want to have a whole city council meeting about that, so you just buy the books for the library. We don't have a library, we don't need to buy books, and we don't need to give you the ability to spend $20,000 on books whenever I want to. So I removed a lot of those extraneous things, and I made the amounts that I can play with a lot lower, because it was really written for bigger cities, so they were like, $100,000 amounts that I would be able to just play with without council permission if that wasn't changed. So as everywhere I could find a place where I specifically had some part in the procurement process, I made my unilateral purchase authority a lot lower than what was in the attorney or what was in the model ordinance. So I think this is as good as it's going to get. If somebody's reading through it and decides, we think there needs to be a change to it, we can have another meeting with you. We amend our ordinances all the time, and if somebody really thinks there's a better way to do something in here, and we can verify that it's in compliance with state law, we can change it at a later date. But we need to get our procurement policies passed so we can start issuing bids and we can start getting our new well built. Up to you, Mr. Mayor. Pass the baton back.
Does anyone on council or staff have any questions? All people wishing to testify on behalf of the ordinance will now testify. Remember to leave your name and address for the record. Do any council members or staff have any questions? All people wishing to testify in opposition to the ordinance will now testify. Please give your name and address for the record. Do any council members or staff have any questions?
I do have one.
Yes, sir.
On the surplus property, that's talking like, lawn mowers and,
Yeah.
I mean, that's not talking like parks and shit like that.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Like with an extra computer and one.
Yeah, I just want to verify.
I know, I can get a lot of junk computer, but that gives us a chance to get rid of it without.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe I,
kind of went through it, but I'm not so through it, stuff like that, so.
Okay.
I kind of read that too.
Okay.
I said, years ago, we had, like I said, a bicycle abandoned there, we had $50 adding machine, we had to put up a public bed. Wait 3 days for it to be exposed to that garden.
Like I said, I know you have to install a park.
Yeah.
10 years from now, the next city administrator might come in and say, option.
Yeah. So it is good to know for that purpose. You look at when you're playing with laws like this, you have to know what the word in there means. And when we say surplus property, there's a bevy of state law that defines what surplus property is. So yeah, I can't just say the park's for sale now, because that's not in the state's definition of surplus property, thankfully. So yeah, it's not really spelled out here. The state's expectation is that you're supposed to understand what surplus property is and isn't. And
Meaning that the school and
yeah,
was having their,
there you go.
city recorder shouldn't be able to go there and do that. Either.
No.
That should be a council or mayor's decision. So.
Yeah, that's pretty much, yeah.
That's one question.
Okay.
Are there any other people wish to testify? Does anyone wish to testify in rebuttal to any testimony that has been offered? Before I close or continue the public hearing, are there any additional questions from council member or staff of anyone that has testified? Once the hearing's been closed, only council member or staff may speak. The public hearing is now closed. city council and how to address the ordinance and then.
It's all pretty much gone through, so.
They're ready to know what's going on.
Yeah.
I'll take a motion to adopt ordinance 2007, contact you purchase ordinance.
I'll second it. I'll go ahead, Bill.
Here we go.
Oh, not understand now. By the first time now. They take this and get it wrong.
Right, like I said, it was passed in '94.
I have a question. How did the aqua meeting go? Thank you for attending.
No, it was short and sweet, very interesting. I met the one commissioner. Chatted with her a bit.
Okay.
Jared. But it's quick, I thought there was gonna be,
Drama.
no, just. I was already there maybe 5 minutes.
That's a long drive.
Yeah, it's kind of what I thought, but I felt, I didn't feel bad, the guy from Newport and Toledo and all that were there, I was like, ooh. Wow.
Well, thank you for covering that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing more.
Okay.
Just an awkward situation, not being, there's such a professional setting, you know, you just,
Yeah.
you know, all the very stuff, the politics in the room. I suppose,
Oh, yeah.
you know, but it was good. I do know what you mean. I was gonna say something, but they're all over those emails.
Yeah.
I think like the Ryan and Lloyd guy must have sent me 5 within, it's like, yeah, it just sounds like over redundant, is that the word?
Redundant.
Figured all that, they have my name tag,
Mhm.
and they didn't. Anyway.
Sometimes their communication's not great, like waiting for the meeting that you please watch this date and find that email from, don't we have a meeting this month? Oh, no, it's not till next month. But I was happy. Anyway, thank you. I appreciate that.
Public comment. If I'm to speak to council or mayor, my name is Doug, other than what is listed on the agenda, except for public hearings.
Make one to adjourn. All right.
Meeting adjourned.